Hello everybody, welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Star and as ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back to another episode within my the I Am IT Geek career journey. We've gone quite deep into a lot of personal things during my career. I left the last episode. It was part one of my Concorde time because so much happened at Concorde, so many good things and personal tough things as well. But I really felt the need that I wanted to. I wanted to put more emphasis on how important my time at Concorde was because that's the point where I came in to start doing cloud. This episode, that's what I'm going to talk about. And then I've got, again, the experience and the knowledge I learned at Concorde allowed me to become what I am today, allowed me to get a job at Net Company, allowed me to learn cloud so I could one day become a Microsoft MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer. And it also, and that's now given me the opportunity to move to Australia. So I would say by far the most important part of my career is these three videos, if I'm honest, the most influential part of my career. And the people that I met at this point are the most influential people. I'm sorry if that upsets anybody, but it's just how it is. The people that I met at Concorde and the the experience I had with those people, a very key part of my life. Excuse me. So the first part of I spoke about, just a recap, kind of how I joined Concorde, not Net Company, sorry, how I joined Concorde Technology Group, my interview, and again, just to reiterate, let your personality show in your interview, be yourself. And I got hired based on my personality rather than my tech skills at the time, which was still good, but I just didn't have that consultancy experience. But and this is what Jason Whitaker said to me: I can teach you those skills, but I can't teach you a personality. So you're great, and that's how I was hired. So I left it in 2016, where again I was established. I was an established consultant. I was kind of, I was doing some good work. I was good feedback. I was enjoying my time. We had a really close knit team. And this is where I'm going to mention somebody else. And this person, I didn't mention him in the first video, but I'll mention him now. Chris Stead. He's like the he's going to hate me for saying this. He's like the granddad of the kind of team that we had. He's the older statesman, kind of telecommunications, old school consultant. I swear to God. But I love Chris to bits. And Chris, I've been on so many jobs with Chris, so many because I used to do networking. Chris used to do phone systems, or still does. And whenever there was a phone system job, I used to go with him because I used to do the networking. I used to configure the switches, the VLANing, etc. And Chris obviously used to do the phone system. And I've had some amazing projects with Chris. So many, too many to mention. So many trips, and me and Steady, so we call him Steady. Me and Chris Stead, aka Steady. We traveled the whole world. We've been to Germany together. I think we've been to Holland together. So we've had some really, really good sort of. There's loads of stories I could tell you, but I'm not gonna because they're not all PG. But yeah, Chris Stead. Massive shout out to Chris Stead. Still a good friend of mine. And I love him to bits. So yeah, Chris has been. I started to spend more time, work more closely with Chris Stead at this point because, like I said, we do do a lot of phone systems, and the networking part used to be my part, and the firewall part. So we became quite a close team. So 2016, unfortunately, my father became very ill, and ill to the point, unfortunately, where he passed away. Now, I remember getting a phone call. So I was at work. It's the part where I might get a bit emotional. So I was at work. I remember getting a phone call around it all, and obviously I was quite upset. At the time, I didn't actually have any holidays. I'd taken my holiday. It was towards the end of the year, towards the end of the sort of holiday year. So I literally had 1 or 2 holidays left, and I was like, look, and obviously it happened, and my mum and dad have lived with me. So that my dad lived with me at the time. My mum still lives with me. And so I had a lot of responsibility on me, and I kind of remember it happened, and at this point as well, I was lucky enough to start working with someone called Craig McDade. So that's Carl's. Yeah, they're related, Carl's dad, but Craig was kind of managing the sort of PS element, the operations element at the time. and it kind of happened, and I got the news that my dad was really ill, and I basically I needed time away. I needed to go sort my family. I needed to go look after my dad, make hospital trips and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I remember, obviously I was quite upset at the time. I remember being in Neil's office. So Neil Roberts, um, managing director of Concorde Technology Group at the time. And again, I can't emphasise how important Neil has been to my last sort of half of my career at Concorde Technology Group. Again, this just epitomises Neil. If I'm honest with the story I'm going to tell you. So I remember being in Neil's office. I was with, I explained to Craig what had happened, and I said, "Look, my dad's not well. I need some time away. I'm going to take unpaid holiday because I don't have any holidays." And and Neil says to me, the first thing he says is, "Right, forget all this unpaid holiday rubbish. You're not having unpaid holiday. Go away. Go sort your family out. Go look after your dad. When you're ready, come back. That's it." And that was it. And without even a thought for anything else, Neil was just like, "Right, you don't need to take unpaid holiday. We'll fully pay you. Go sort your family out. When your dad's better, come back, and everything will be here when you come back." And literally every other day, Neil was contacting me, seeing how I was, seeing how my dad was, and the same with Craig McDade as well. They were both kind of regularly contacting me. So were the rest of the team, and it was a very sort of it was like my family away from my family kind of thing. And I don't know if many people would have that where they work, where you've got a boss who knows how important family are, and he's got Neil and Craig, both family men themselves. Neil's got a lovely family, and to just say to me, and that I'll never forget that, never, and I'll be eternally grateful to Neil and Craig for the support they gave me that time. I'm taking a sip because I'm getting teary eyed. That's what I'm taking trying. So, what happened. My dad passed away, unfortunately. And again, my dad was an important part of my life. And I'm sure most fathers are, but my dad was always a big supporter of my work, and always pushing me to improve. And yeah. So, unfortunately, my dad passed away. Came back to work, and that was a tough year, I'll admit, because a lot of change in the dynamic of my family. The head of my family had passed away, so there's a big gap that was kind of missing, and that was needed to be filled, and I had issues financially, unfortunately, as well. So I was struggling because being in a shared household, that certain expenditures are shared and whatnot, and I kind of was left with a big hole to fill financially, and I struggled. I really did struggle. I won't get into the details of it, but I was probably the hardest years of my life, 2016 to 2017. And in sort of mid 2017, I think it was, I kind of decided, I need to move on for whatever reason. I didn't want to, and I loved Concorde, I loved working there, I loved the people that I worked with, but I had to put my family first, and for whatever reason, I felt like I had to move on, and I came very close to moving on. I'm not going to go into who I was going to move to, because I don't think it's fair to them or Concorde. But what I'll say is, I was still young, in my opinion. I was still young in tech, and I think it didn't work. It didn't end well with the company that I was supposed to go to, because what ended up happening is Concorde again sat down with Neil and people, and Carl McDade and Craig, and they spoke to me, sat me down, and you know what, they the whole they I won't say they made me a counter offer, but they explained how important I was to the future of Concorde. And it wasn't my intention to do that. I didn't intend to lead on any other company, but again, I had to be selfish. And if they're watching, they might be, I don't know, but if they're watching, I hope they understand that at the time I had to do what was best for me. And I think it's all, you know, what's happened has worked out for me. If I'd not made that decision to stay at Concorde, I don't know how my life would have turned out. Right now, I can look back and say I made the right decision, and I hope that company understands. They will know who they are if they're watching. And you know, I got promoted to being a senior consultant, and it was amazing. And and that was the point where just before that, actually, so just a little bit before that, I rewind a little bit. I kind of fell into cloud. So again, I was doing the networking, and for whatever reason, we had a consultant who senior consultant who did all the cloud stuff, and we were very much starting in cloud, AWS and Microsoft stuff. There was an Exchange on premises migration to 365 Exchange Online, and he was doing that. For whatever reason, he became unavailable, but we'd agreed with the client we were going to do it on this time, and it fell in my lap, and I'm like, oh, I have no idea. Anyway, but again, I went away and I started learning about cloud. And again, it was just an opportunity that I'd been given at Concorde. And that was the beauty at working like an MSP. You got these sort of opportunities where you could end up being dropped on a different project, different technology, and you had the environment to learn it in. You know, I had a demo tenant at Concorde, and it was great. And that's kind of how I fell into cloud, if I'm honest. And ended up doing this migration because I knew Exchange on premises. I knew half the battle. You know, then the whole hybrid and the stage migration, all these sorts of things I was learning. And that was the beauty of working at Concorde, the opportunities I'd been given to learn on the job. and that was my first project in cloud, and I just went from strength to, I kind of fell in love with it, if I'm honest, and I kind of fell away from the networking side. And I dropped my CCNA and as in, my certification, I dropped it because I didn't need to renew it because I was going to learn cloud, started learning cloud, did certifications, did my AZ 104, did my, at the time, the MD exams, MD 101, 100 and 101. I did what else did I do? I started getting certifications, learning cloud, spending loads of my own time, like labbing on an evening, doing labs and doing different things like that. And then I just became this just really just focused on learning, and that part of my career was just really, really enjoyed it because I was learning so much. I was doing cool projects. I was doing I was learning Azure AD, a hybrid AD, migrating people from on-premises to cloud, and it was a really fun time. And that's when I became this senior consultant at Concorde. And again, one thing I want to say, the job that I was offered was very network focused because that was my specialty at the time. But I was offered more money to go there, and I decided to take less money to stay at Concorde because I knew the money that I was offered at the time from Concorde was more than enough to resolve the problems I had financially. But I knew for my career path, I knew that Concorde was the right place for me. I didn't want to leave. It was really a tough, horrible time for me to, my brain was everywhere. I just lost my dad. I was emotional. I'm an emotional guy as it is. I was emotional. I was just everywhere. My head was everywhere. I really didn't want to leave, and I'm really thankful to, again, Neil Roberts, Carl McDade, and Craig McDade for talking to me, sitting me down, and making me feel really wanted and explain to me, the future. And the loads of changes happened at Concorde during that time. It was really exciting. The business grew massively, and it was a really good time. And I'm glad I stayed there. And my relationship, because again, my first part of my career at Concorde, I wasn't really that close to Neil. Obviously, I knew him, to say hi, and Christmas party, you speak to him a little bit, blah blah blah. I didn't really know him personally that well. And after that, my relationship with Neil changed, and we became, I'd like to think we became friends, and we're still friends, still speak to Neil. Spoke to him yesterday, actually. My relationship with him changed after that in a really good way. And that was kind of it. I kind of got promoted, and the team grew, and, it was a really good time. So that's where I'm going to end this video. That was a bit of a tough video for me to make, because reminiscing about my dad passing. So but I'm going to cut it there. In the third part of the Concorde saga, the Concorde little mini series, I will talk about the time at COVID, because again, I left during COVID, but that was again such a tough time for me mentally and personally, because that is when I decided to move on from Concorde. And there are reasons why, and I'll explain those. And they're not negative in any way to Concorde. Again, it was a tough decision because I love the place. I've been back a couple of times to see Neil. I've seen the place is booming. It's great to see. I'm really glad Concorde Technology Group's doing well. But then I'll talk about my transition in the next episode to Netcompany and the start of that. And I'll probably finish off with a couple of episodes around Netcompany because, again, that's where I became an MVP, Microsoft MVP. That's where I became an MCT. And that's how this opportunity to Australia has started. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for bearing with my emotional state. And until next time, goodbye.